Podcast.
Let's get into how you start all the fitness journey. I think that's what you're the most known for. You know, I mean, very business minded, but also like the fitness. That's how it's all started. Let's go from that with that.
Yeah. So I actually have a degree in aerospace engineering.
No shit.
Yeah.
That's when I'm doing a podcast because I found out shit I'd never heard of. Are you serious?
Yeah, aerospace, MEng. Yeah.
Aerospace engineering.
Aerospace engineering, masters. So at school, I was always good at like maths and physics, and I got A and A levels in those. And
Right.
I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I just knew I wanted to go to university, and they naturally come together to give engineering. So I actually did engineering. But the thing is, the whole time I was at uni, I just kind of like did what I had to do to get the grades.
Right.
And I spent my time partying, playing on the American football team, and I even set up my own fitness brand while at university, which then became to be my business for a few years thereafter. And the real turning point for me actually was...
Dream Boys.
yeah, well, no, it was the same way I met Dave, the owner-manager of the Dream Boys.
Really?
So I did that competition called Fit Factor. I did it the weekend before my final exams, and I won that. And that actually included an all-expenses-paid trip to Vegas with spending money. And the owner of that competition, who also owned the exhibition, then offered to invest in my fitness brand.
Oh, wow.
Funny story about that guy, actually, the owner of that brand, that exhibition.
She asked you out?
Yeah. So it came out down the line that this guy, okay, he's got a wife and kid. You know Martin Ford?
Yeah, of course not.
Yeah, so Martin Ford at Body Power India, okay, walked in on him dogging an Indian boy in the hotel room.
Oh.
Mate, I've met his wife, you know, and stuff.
Is
at
this
their
information
offices.
out there?
This information's out there within the industry.
Oh, okay.
But fuck it, it's kind of pretty widespread now.
Oh, wow. And Martin Ford, it's so funny. It's like it just finally clicked in. I was working on like 3 or 4 different films with Martin Ford. And I was always playing fighter and whatever. And there's a scene which I actually going to put it right here. Everyone can see it. We had this really cool rehearsal where he was beating up my ass. Okay, so in that competition which you won, you were, how old you were? Like 19, 20 years old?
21, because it was my 4th year of uni, weekend before the exams. And yeah, winning that just kind of said to me, okay, you need to pursue this industry, right? Like I had the trip to Vegas in September coming up. So yeah, I kept going with my brand, and at that point I started working part-time, right, for the Dream Boys, because Dave was the judge, and so that's when we met, when I was 21, which is 10 years ago.
Dude, insane.
Insane. Yeah, and then that was a good kind of like, that was my mid-20s really, building that company and continuing to compete in more fitness competitions. And yeah, I had a good time building that brand up.
How did it start with the brand? You kind of skipped that. Like, what was the brand? How did you start that?
So the brand was Mass, and I had a pretty good reputation as being known as, you know, the Mass guy. So it was university community for gym and fitness. And it was like a club at your university, like the rugby team or the football team, but the club for gym and fitness. And at one point I grew it up to about 30 universities. And it was like a franchise, but not in the legal sense. Like people weren't signing, you know, franchise documents, but it worked just the same. You got the how-to pack on running your own community at your university. And we oversaw the headline stuff like the clothing brands, the sponsorships and stuff like that. And I ran events. I ran the Mr. University competition for a number of years. And that built up to having regionals as well as a final. And it was all really fun. It was a bit of a social business because I just kind of enjoyed doing it. But there's lots of people now who, you know, were part of our community. And if it wasn't for what we were doing, they wouldn't have gone on to the big careers in fitness they're now in. Like there's lots of IFBB pros, people who have decided to pursue fitness as opposed to, say, what they were studying, which they might not have been as passionate about. So, yeah, that was a really good part of my my 20s.
And then you kind of, that example of that you were not very passionate about what you were studying from the air, what is that?
Aerospace engineering.
Aerospace engineering.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
you wanted to be a cosmonaut, basically. You wanted to go to space.
I mean, sometimes I got into it, and sometimes I got into the numbers and whatnot, and I naturally got kind of like a mathematical brain.
Right.
But the thing is, like, there was me, okay, in my engineering course with like arms busting out of my t-shirt, looking like I'm fresh off of Jersey Shore, and then I'm next to
All the nerds.
weedy guy in a lab coat, you know. And the thing is, engineering, as I learned more about it, that's kind of like engineers are the guy behind the guy, right? So they do a lot of the back end work, and it's the people that own the engineering companies that,
Right.
A lot of my course mates who are now, say, chartered engineers, you know, as a personal trainer, I'm still earning like 3 times more than them.
Really?
Right, like, yeah, so...
But what if you do your own business? What if you come up with your own concept? That's where you can make millions.
This is true. This is
Right.
true. So, yeah, but even then, I just wasn't that interested.
We have that one example, Elon Musk. Ever heard of that guy?
Yeah,
He's doing pretty well.
Yeah, he's doing all right, eh? Yeah.
Yeah. That's an interesting one. It's like, it's the question about, is it better, there's this saying, is it better to have this thing in my hand, or there's this massive bird in a tree kind of thing? Like, what was that saying? Saying about like whether you get this and it's a instinct kind of reward and it's already there and it's kind of easier to achieve, or you being in the lab and doing that all boring stuff and doing that, but you have that vision of you gonna do something big in the future.
Yeah, see, the thing is, you're right, there's definitely a bigger scalability and future in, say, engineering if you did it properly, but my passion just wasn't there.
Oh, okay.
You know, I liked doing the fitness stuff, I loved doing the Dream Boys stuff.
Right.
I'm more of a showman, you know, like a performer, and yeah, that kind of like back-end design engineering didn't really have that much passion.
No, man, I get it. Listen to who you're talking to. I always wanted to be in the center of attention. Like, I went to study business just because I had no idea what else I could study. Like, I wanted to study journalism, but my writing was so shit, and my mom said, like, go study something serious, which is business. And I don't know. I think it was pretty cool to study business because I met a lot of like-minded people who were also kind of lost. They didn't know what the fuck they want to do. And then mass, what did they actually did? Was it supplements? Was it like a training equipment? What was it?
Oh god, so it was kind of like, it was a membership base for mostly, right? So it was captive audience. That's what its main USP was. And so we had our own clothing line, which we did quite well from. Had our events as well as the Mr. University. We did some powerlifting ones, and then kind of sports nutrition companies that wanted to reach that market might do the sponsorships as well. But I looked at everything across the years, like lots of different ways of doing the clothing, as well as ways of selling our own sports nutrition and things, and exploring ideas. Yeah, but where that business reached kind of like an end point, it was that you're working with the universities, so there was a bit of like bureaucracy and politics involved.
Yeah, especially when you work with the universities.
Yeah, exactly. So it reached its limit of scalability, and right when I had planned to rebrand and relaunch it within a kind of app format, COVID hit. So students weren't actually even going into the university anymore. So the whole thing got put on pause, and then eventually it just never happened, and I got carried away with other things. But I think that's for the best anyway, because there's always the student market, which is always going to be limited in its spending power, right? But yeah,
cool.
From a social element, enjoyed it.
Yeah, and then from competitions, so what is your greatest achievement competing? And you competing not in the bodybuilding, but you're competing in the fitness model. I always get. I even competed
confused.
once in with Rowan and Diego was there as well. Do you remember that one? I
You competed.
I did, and Roger Snipes was the judge, and I was just
Really?
I was totally marking all the fucking thing. I just went out like.
Was that like Miami Pro or something?
Yeah, something like FF something MFF. I don't remember anymore.
Blah, blah, blah. Renarspodcast.